Good afternoon. My name is Keith All, and today's tutorial will be on how pivot tables work in Excel 2016, and I'll be specifically talking about summarizing data. So what is a pivot table? Now, a pivot table is in Excel. We're talking about Microsoft Excel. A pivot table is a tool that allows you to summarize large sums of data. Now, here is an example of raw data from an Excel spreadsheet. Now, depending on what your position is within the company that you're currently working for, you may see data like this. However it gets into Excel, there are many different ways that happens, whether or not someone set up an Excel spreadsheet with a user data form where you do data entry all day, or it comes from your IT department and it gets loaded into your spreadsheet. But working with this raw data can be cumbersome, and to the end user, this information does not present something to them that would allow them to understand what all this information is. So now, what would a reason be for a pivot table? Again, in its current form, this data is hard to understand because there's too much detail to it. And to make sense of this information, we need to summarize it. And again, a tool to do that would be a pivot table. Now, when you're designing a pivot table, you will always ask yourself some questions about the data. Now, for example, again, depending on where you are within your company and what position you fill, your bosses may want to know the total sales by region or by customer and or by sales rep. Or another question you can ask is, what are the total sales by product or by product category for a particular time frame? What are the total number of units sold within a category for a particular month? Or who are the top 5 sales reps by region and or by state? Or you can ask yourself a question, what products did a particular salesperson sell within Q1 of the current year? Now, here are some examples of once a pivot table is set up, you can ask yourself these questions. Now, in this first section here in the left-hand corner, this pivot table is going to ask, what are the total sales for the year of 2014? And we want that to be subtotal by region and by each quarter. So up here, we're gonna a pivot table allows you to have a drop down here that you could select by year. It goes through that raw data that we showed you in the previous slides, and you're able to select by year up here. And then over here, we're gonna display all the regions that we are currently doing business in. And up in the columns area, we're going to subtotal it by each quarter. And of course, it's going to display your numbers by region and by quarter, and it will give you a grand total for each one of these. And again, you'll have a grand total down here for per quarter, and of course a grand total for all this information. Now, this other table here is going to ask the question, what are the total sales for the year of 2014? And we want it subtotal by product name and by region. Again, we're able to come up here and select the year. And in the rows area, we're going to display each product. And now for each product now, we want a subtotal of the sales that occurred for each product within each region here. And again, we are going to total each column and each row. This bottom table here, pivot table, it's going to ask the question, how many products did each customer buy for all years? So we're going to go up here, and in this box we're going to display all, meaning that we want all information for every single year. And what's going to happen over here, we're going to be showing each customer, okay, and then we're going to be displaying each one of the products. So basically we want to know what products were sold for which customer, and it's going to subtotal it by the number of products that they sold for that particular customer. In other words, I want to know who customer 1 is and how many products of product 2 did they buy for this particular time frame, which is for every single year. And it's going to grand total everything. So as you can see, we took that raw data that didn't necessarily mean a lot to the end user, but now we were able to manipulate it and summarize it in a form where now we can present it to our bosses so they can analyze it much better. So once a pivot table has been created, now what do you want to do? Again, once you create the pivot table in Excel, you're going to ask yourself those questions, a series of questions, so you can display it in a graphical sense or in a sense where it shows a lot of subtotals for the information that you want to bring back. So again, you could quickly transform huge numbers of rows and columns of your raw data into a meaningful and nicely formatted report. Now in future tutorials, I will show you how pivot tables can be presented and formatted in other ways that I showed you in this tutorial. Again, I'm going to go into more detail on how to set up pivot tables. And this was just basically a general overview of what pivot tables are. Again, in future tutorials, I'll go into detail about pivot tables and, of course, about dashboards. So I'll do that. And then if you want to see more videos like this, just go to this URL, and I'm going to put this URL in the description below this video if you're watching this on YouTube. Again, my name is Keith All. Thank you for stopping by today, and I look forward to doing more tutorials like this. And I'll also be doing more tutorials on setting up tables within Excel also. So I'll have separate playlists for that topic also. Again, I want to thank you for stopping by today. Again, my name is Keith All. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.